Every new patch that comes out, my procrastination kicks heavily in overdrive with each passing moment that we get closer to patch day. And, well, today is no exception. The new Griseo has finally arrived, and she's all grown up now, which is something I wish I could say about all the Twitter fiends that play Genshin. To be honest though, this is much better since I hate kids, keep them away from me at all costs. After spending 50,000 years in space, you would think that Griseo might have grown up in more ways than one, but instead she became a Star Wars fanatic. But that's okay though, because so am I. When's Mandalorian Season 4, man? Griseo's the first Stardust character being added to the game, and also finally, the first dedicated bleed support being added to Honkai. As Hoyo is on their tirade discovering the lost damage types and status effects that exist within this ever-growing game of complexity, in an effort to further fund Genshin and Star Rail, and maybe even save ZZZ before it even launches. Today, I'll be showing you guys exactly how to play and build her, including her best weapons, Stigmata, teams, and more. So if you guys enjoy this kind of content, consider subscribing to the channel as it's the best way to show support as we aim to build our own empire and become the new Republic in Honkai. With that being said though, I'm your Pepega Twitch streamer guide Jayniro, and let's get to talking about Griseo. The new UI is finally here, and oh man, is it more beautiful than Argenti or any of the paintings female Vincent van Gogh could ever paint. In addition, we can utilize this brand new, oh so sweet Valkyrie screen to look more into what makes Griseo so great. The core of Griseo's kit lies surrounding this beacon right here. What I mean by that is it actually revolves around her meter mechanic, internal energy. Alright, time to get all sciencey and engineering up in this bitch for a second. The internal energy of a system is the energy contained within it, measured as the quantity of energy necessary to bring the system from its standard internal state. Wait, no one cares about this sciencey gobbledygook other than me in the first place. Anyways, restoring internal energy works fundamentally different from how it works in real life, as it violates the law of conservation of energy, which is ironic considering that scientists recently have performed yet again a nuclear fusion reaction that yielded a net positive energy outcome. Makes you wonder, is everything we knew and know even real? What are the real secrets of the universe? 3am thoughts, I guess. Rather than manipulating variables such as temperature, entropy, volume, and lots of other sciencey things, Griseo hits stuff with a lightsaber. With max internal energy and the beacon on the field, using special weapon active summons an actual meteor to fall from the sky, as opposed to a dinky georock that looks something like a child would put together with Legos. This boosts total damage by 49%, inflicts 6 bleed trauma, and makes enemies take 9% bonus bleed damage for 20 seconds. Her ultimate only becomes available for 1 second after using this, so the two practically work together in tandem. Casting her ultimate lets her slash the meteor and becomes synonymous with Saitama and wreaking havoc on the surrounding area. In addition to triggering all the effects of the special weapon active, the meteor deals 1 damage to all surrounding enemies and also lets the on-field character gain 67.5% of her attack as bonus adaptive damage. This basically means that the granted damage bonus can be used for either physical or elemental damage, but doesn't necessarily fall under the total damage category at all. Rey Palpatine isn't just useful just because she's the first dedicated bleed support in the game, but also she's the first Stardust character to come into the game as well, meaning we need to discuss not only how she works, but also briefly how Stardust typing affects the game as well. Like how Quantum has Quantum shields and Imaginary has Imaginary seeds, Stardust has its own unique mechanic as well for melting enemies faster. Collecting Stardust shards gathered around the field and hitting Stardust typed enemies with them will instantly reduce their max HP. How Griseo fits into this is pretty interesting since she won't have to go around collecting the shards as if she was the next incarnation of Link, scouring the land of Hyrule for any spare rupees, or the Traveler for spare Primogems from respawning chests. Instead, she can not just gather Stardust fragments directly to her, she can also create them as well. Finally, a crystal fragment that is actually useful in a Hoyo game. Who would have thought? After using her 4th basic attack, tapping attack again casts her combo attack that we discussed earlier, but also consumes all Stardust fragments collected so far to boost the damage dealt to the max HP of Stardust enemies, and also absorb all fragments on the field, which boosts this attack's damage even further. The final thing we should talk about is her SP skills. Just like the child version of herself, Adult Grizzly Bear can also apply the same die effect to enemies that affects bleed damage. This isn't really that important, but the main takeaway is that you want to use CE after SI if you use them in the same team, which you will be in some cases since S-Rank makes Griseo a pretty decent Stardust DPS. Her double S lets her bleed damage deal 3 damage to shields that can only take fixed damage, aka bleed shields, and can be triggered once every 0.2 seconds. In addition, it also further unlocks some upgrades to some of her weapon skills. And her triple S lets her ultimate deal 2.5% bonus physical damage on hit for every bleed stack on the target. Paired with Starry Impression, it stacks up to 9 bleed stacks, which comes out to be 22.5% bonus physical damage. Even once we get a dedicated Stardust DPS, she'll still remain very good, and she isn't too difficult to build either, so let's talk about that next. Being the first dedicated bleed support, you would think that there wouldn't be that many options to build Griseo. And you would be right. But that doesn't mean options don't exist. Let's start off with talking about her signature gear. Her signature cross anchor of the Voyage truly is stellar. One could say interstellar, maybe? Deploying a cross generates a satellite that deals damage for 16 seconds. Additionally, the team deals 15% more bleed damage and 15% more total damage passively. When equipped on CE, she also increases the bleed damage dealt by her by 25% while also restoring a little bit of HP, dealing 30% more physical damage and increasing the team's physical damage by 35%, and also gathering enemies around the beacon to deal bleed damage. As for her signature Stigmata, full set is the ideal way to go, as anything less will cause it to lose to full Handel and Shazam sets. The full set consists of both team-wide and self-buffs that are pretty substantial. For the team-wide buffs, it gives 15% total damage, 24% bleed damage, and causes enemies to take 15% more bleed damage and 20% more total damage. For the self buffs, using ult restores 15 SP, and separately she gains 20% total damage, 25% bleed damage, and 25% physical damage, while also inflicting 25% more bleed trauma. For the crosses, there aren't really that many options due to the sheer niche of Griseo, but SI's weapon would be the second best option, followed by Hecate's and Lunar Vow's weapon. This is for both whether she's going to be putting out big PP numbers herself with her massive lightsaber, or supporting a physical DPS. If she's supporting Lunar Vow, and if you have an extra Lunar Vow cross because you get absolutely star railed by the gacha like me, well, that'll work. Otherwise, your next best option is going to be Oath of Judah, and then whatever your best stat stick is after that. As for her Stigmata, this is going to differ a little bit depending on whatever role she's going to play in the team, just like her weapons. As a DPS, your next best option would be a full Aladdin set, but a fully farmable option would be Marco T, Elysia M, and Holmes B. Pretty much you're looking for anything that gives bleed, physical, or total damage buffs, so there are a ton of different options out there. Don't stick to just this, take a look yourself, although I will say Elysia M is pretty huge due to the 30% physical damage buff raw from the Stigmata passive, so pretty nice. Although when supporting physical damage dealers, Prometheus' set is really strong due to the amount of physical damage buffs it gives even if it is focused around breaking shields. Full Shazam set is great here as well, while Candy T, Holmes, MB is a decent farmable option. In the lightning support category, we're looking at Aladdin TB, Shazam, but any Aladdin 2-piece combo works in all honesty. But this would also be followed up by Turk TB Shazam and full Handel set, but only if Handel isn't already being used since they don't stack. So we've talked about the different situations for her gear, but we should specify what team comps actually create those situations. Thank God for gear loadouts though, as these just ain't coming to Genshin, Star Rail, or even ZZZ, so keep up on that copium all you other Hoyo people. Alright, welcome to the team section where we're finally greeted with a brand new team select screen. Except it's not new because we still have to go through this old trash to even get to it. Just get rid of it already, please, and default to this. Just general. Thank you. Please so much. Love you. I'm gonna get canceled, bro. Seeing as Griseo is extremely introverted, just like me, you would think she would follow in my footsteps of not having many characters to team up with, and you would be right. Since she's a bleed-focused support, her options are few, but they are very strong though. If you're Schrodinger's or DPS, you'll want to secure that backbone of the team with either Horb, guide coming soon, TM, or Senti, who is surprisingly offered for free this patch, which is actually larger than Sushang's Magnum Cock. Horb is pretty great though, due to the amount of bonus damage she gives to the team in both physical and total damage. Not to mention she allows bleed to tick faster on enemies she's either impaired or are affected by her ult. Senti, on the other hand, is amazing for massive impairment and defense shred she inflicts on enemies. While they both specialize in transferring crit rate and damage over, this isn't an issue even though bleed doesn't crit at all. For our second support, we'll just fill in that role with skill issue here since there really isn't anything else that works in the way of bleed. But you can also use the Prometheus, I guess, if that's more up your alley, or just don't have Star Impression at all yet. SI is fantastic as she enables bleed to stack for now maximum of 9 times, which deals even more physical damage. Not to mention that she inflicts more bleed trauma and grants more bonus total damage and physical damage to the team. Big Grizzly Sister here actually does pretty damn good damage at S rank, which is strange because usually for SP characters, the threshold between being actually decent is double S rank, so this is a welcome surprise of course. When choosing to support physical damage, the only real physical bleed DPS in the game right now is Susanna, so like we discussed back then when she first came out, our backbone support will be either Horb or Senti. There's not really much to say to that really. CE can work in other physical teams if you're lacking supports due to her physical damage buffs, but she's primarily a bleed support first and foremost, then a physical support. And Susanna is just great, you know. As for lightning damage, the only option, just like physical, is our only lightning bleed DPS being Lunar Vow. The premier backbone support for this team is HTR due to her absolutely gigantic buffs in Elemental Breach and the sheer support she provides for the elemental teams. But if you don't have her, you can use AE as a general support, but I'd much more recommend Shigeru Akira here since she can restore SP to the team and grants elemental damage bonus through her ult and total damage bonus through her charge attack and SP skills. Overall, Big Griseo is a fantastic support and more than likely will be a staple for bleed teams just like Horb and Senti are for physical, HTR and AE are for elemental, and Aichan is for ignite, which I mean basically is fire bleed but isn't for some reason. It's nice to see that our options are growing and being an SP Valkyrie, obtaining her and her gear is on the cheaper side, but we now know new Fuhua is coming next patch, so really think through what matters most to you. Although I will say that 7.3 is the patch after, obviously Jade. Shut the fuck up. And that's going to bring a whole slew of changes to the game, so keep that in the back of your mind as well as to which is more important to you. I don't know if y'all have been able to tell by now, but I'm extremely tired and burnt out from being overly worked recently, but I guess that's what a combination of critical design review prep and finals does to you, I guess. Totally didn't have to pull Griseo once the patch went live to finish filming this. Also, I think I might have gotten food poisoning or something since I've been battling the porcelain throne all day, which is why I'm still writing the script at 3 a.m. when the videos due at 8 a.m. my time. So I'm going to edit this shiz and sleep maybe. Probably not because I more than likely won't have enough time. But I don't know. I got classes today, so we'll figure it out, I guess.